Are there any other changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would request that we move 14E, that's expression of gratitude to Fire Rescue and Vero Beach Police Department, to Section 5E, if you please, as they are in attendance at this time.
Okay, so we're going to move item 14E to the end of the proclamations and presentations, and that'll become 5E.
5E, thank you.
Are there any other changes, additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, move approval as amended.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fleischer, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. A couple just quick housekeeping things, Commissioners. One, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Moss back up on the dais. Good to have you back.
Very much.
Also like to recognize we have a Sebastian City Councilman, Mr. Fred Jones, is here in the audience. Fred, welcome. Good morning. And also the Sebastian City Manager, Paul Carlisle, is here. Paul, welcome. And we have a constitutional Leslie Swan, but she'll be speaking later, so we'll introduce her when we get to that. And I think that's all of our distinguished guests. Oh, and of course, our clerk of the court, Jeff Smith. Well, we'll be hearing from Jeff too, so we'll get him then. All right. Chief Curry is back there. We'll see him in a minute too here under 5E, I think. So, okay. Proclamations and presentations. The first one is a presentation of a proclamation honoring Lieutenant Fire Inspector Sandra Seeley upon her retirement from Indian River County Department of Emergency Services Fire Prevention Bureau. And Vice Chair Ehrman has the honor to present this proclamation. So, Commissioner Ehrman, the floor is yours.
Come on down.
Bring everybody with you.
Everybody, come on down. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor for me to read this proclamation. I'll read the proclamation, then I have a few statements about Sandy since I've known her so long. I remember when she started and what she's done and accomplished, and it's pretty impressive. So let me read the proclamation. It's a proclamation honoring Lieutenant Fire Inspector Sandra Seeley upon the occasion of her retirement from Indian River County Department of Emergency Services and Fire Prevention Bureau. Whereas on June 22nd, 1987, Sandra Seeley was hired by the then South Indian River County Fire District as a word processor input operator with her first employee review reflecting exemplary work, and by September 3rd, 1988, she was promoted to Secretary 1 position. And whereas, due to her documented work ethic and quality output, a new position was created on September 29th, 1989. She was promoted and became Fire Prevention's first full-time assistant, wherein she devised strategies that quickly enhance workflow organizations and productivity of the department. And whereas, Sandra Seeley continued to learn everything about her position and on her own time and expense obtained her certifications as fire inspector and on October 5th, 1990 as a firefighter, which made her the first woman to have achieved either distinction in the history of the county. And whereas on July 15th, 1994, she was promoted to Fire Prevention Inspector, and by February 14th, 2003, she earned the title of Lieutenant Fire Inspector, in which capacity she served until her retirement on July 31st, 2022. And whereas Sandra Seeley was lauded in review after review for being keenly aware of the goal of good customer service, for being able to provide backup for all her positions within the Fire Prevention Department, for being first to learn the latest techniques and computer programs, and for willingly sharing her knowledge and expertise with new employees. And whereas Sandra Seeley excelled not only in all aspects of career, but also in giving back to the community with courage, generosity, and energy in multiple ways, and is best known for spending decades as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Vero Beach Firefighters Association, as well as Office Manager-Treasurer for the annual Firefighters Fair, which has supported our fire families, our residents, and local nonprofit organizations whenever and wherever needed. Now, Therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board is grateful to Sandra Seeley for being a true example of an employee who served our citizens with integrity, loyalty, commitment, and compassion and pride for 35 years. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners and staff extend their sincerest wishes for success in all her future endeavors, adopted this 13th day of September 2022, and signed by Chairman O'Brien.
Well, Sandra, that's quite a record there.
I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of the people, that it was, I remember when Sandy came on board as the secretary, and, she fit right in right then and there at that point in time, and you knew that she had bigger things planned. And obviously, those bigger things were becoming the first female fire inspector, first female firefighter in the county, and all that sort of stuff. And she was always good at her job, and she was known as being a fire inspector, being fair and being tough and following through on what needed to be done out there in the field with all these businesses. So it was a pretty impressive career, and I was, more than honored to work with her for so many years. And then the dedication and time that she put into the Firefighters Fair is just unheard of. I think, Toby Turner, myself, Sandy, Rod Johnston, others that have carried on the tradition, has just been exemplary. And Sandy was a huge part of that and the success of that event every year. But Sandy, it's been an honor, and I wish you well, and I know you'll do well, and I know you're going to enjoy retirement. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I actually had put a few things on my phone, but I just gave that away. But, starting when you're 18 years old somewhere and working for 35 years is, you grow a lot and you learn a lot. And I was very proud of my career and happy to serve, and just felt so connected to the community in so many ways. The fair kind of helped with that even more, in our nonprofit and scholarships and things that we did. It grew to make me bigger than I ever myself was. When you give to the community like that, it just has a good feeling to it. And I think that was a big part of who I've always been, and enjoyed that just as much as I have my career here. So I appreciate serving the county, and definitely miss already some of the connections and things like that. But I'm moving on to teach my art full-time and teach my art classes and stuff like that, do that a little more than I was. So I don't doubt I'll enjoy every bit of it, but I'll definitely miss the family. When we first started, it was a little different dynamics than it is now, but we call it our true fire family. And I always really was part of that, family environment where we did cookouts and we did, a lot of different things that our department doesn't really do as much now. One, because I think we're so big, but being that part of that big family was huge for me, and I'm sure that's why I stayed around and why I decided to go on and get my degree and get my certifications and things like that, was that cohesive group that was what I was raised with. So, thank you.
Very good. Chief, did you have anything to say, or?
Sandy was always one of our inspectors we could turn to when we needed answers to things. She was excellent with our programs, our inspection programs, and being an inspector as a whole. I mean, I thank her for all the help she gave me when I became fire marshal over there. She gave me immense help, especially with the computer system and the files and things of that sort. I couldn't have done it without her. She's in my heart, she's in my thoughts, and I hope she has a great retirement.
I have to add to that, I had about 3 long pages of things that weren't being done, either policy-wise or code-wise or program-wise or record retention-wise, that were deficient. And he fixed every single one of them within, I couldn't tell you, I don't know how many months. It took a long time to get the credit card machine, but that wasn't his fault. But he fixed all of them starting on the first day, and that was something that, just made me feel so much of a team member again, having him in there and letting us totally revamp our whole department, and I enjoy that part. So I always appreciate that team that happened.
Couldn't have done it without her.
Well, Sandra, enjoy your retirement, and I want to sincerely thank you for all your years of service and to congratulate you on your accomplishments in your career. And maybe one day you'll be hanging some of your artwork on the second floor with the other artwork. We look forward to that. Okay, great. Thank you, Sandra. Come on up.
You don't have to.
You'd think 35 years later she would remember this.
You're not leaving the fair, are you? I have to at least train. We'll see. Okay.
I have committed to at least a year, maybe
All right.
two.
This is enough void.
Congratulations.
All right, Sandra.
Very much.
Thank you.
You can't leave them alone.
Commissioners, I have one more introduction. I see that we have Commissioner-elect Darrell Lords in the audience. Darrell, welcome. There he is. In a couple of months, you'll be sitting here looking that way, so it'll be a little different view for you. Next, we have a proclamation. Well, yeah, those of you that follow us and have been around a few years know when you see the orange ties and the orange necklaces and all the orange, it must be Hunger Action Month. And so we do have a proclamation for that, and that'll be presented by Commissioner Adams. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you.
And we have a couple folks here to accept this. Come on, come on up. Just come to the podium. Yeah.
And Annabelle here. My name's Deb Neufeld. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to see you, Deb.
It's only a 20-minute speech.
Yeah, you get all the glory, I guess.
It is my pleasure to read a proclamation designating the month of September 2022 as Hunger Action Month. Whereas hunger and poverty remain issues of grave concern in the United States, the state of Florida, and the Treasure Coast, with 24,552 children and adults in Indian River County now categorized as food insecure. And whereas Indian River County is committed to taking steps to raise awareness about the need to combat hunger in every part of our county and to support efforts to serve the needs of Indian River County citizens. And whereas Indian River County is committed to working with the Treasure Coast Food Bank and educating people about the role and importance of food banks and other hunger relief organizations in addressing hunger and bringing attention to the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas food banks and hunger relief organizations across the country, including the Treasure Coast Food Bank, are coordinating Hunger Action Day on September 23, 2022, and will continue to host numerous events throughout the month of September to shed light on this important issue and encourage involvement in efforts to end hunger in our local communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the month of September 2022 be designated as Hunger Action Month in Indian River County, and the Board encourages all citizens to exercise observance. Adopted this 13th day of September 2022 and signed by all 5 county commissioners. And welcome. I know the Treasure Coast Food Bank has been doing a lot of activities around the county, culminating on September 23rd, but I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on, or...
Well, I want everyone to know you can walk, not necessarily run, this Saturday, the 17th. It's the Hunger Action Month Walk Run 5K. You can do it. Everybody can do it. Trust me, we have little kids to old farts like me. So put that on your calendar, please. Starts pretty early, I think 7, sunrise. But that's just one of many things, and you can hit stophunger.org to see all the rest of
find out
the
more information.
activities.
Fantastic. Well, wonderful. Well, we appreciate everything that you're doing in the community and advocating for our food insecure and providing those resources. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the only logo that's the hunger action.
It's got the right orange in it?
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you all.
All right, you got to stay for the picture.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, we have a proclamation designating September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. This will be presented by Commissioner Moss, and I think there's supposed to be a few people in the audience to accept this, so if you're here for suicide prevention, come on up to the podiums.
All right. Milo Thornton, for the Sheriff's Department. I know he does a lot of work in this area. Glad you're here. Proclamation designating September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which directs the community's attention to this public health epidemic, which destroys lives, whole families, and sometimes entire communities. And whereas suicide rates on the Treasure Coast and in Okeechobee have increased significantly in the first half of 2022, according to our medical examiner's office, with 10 suicide deaths in Indian River County in Q1 of 2022. And whereas there were nearly 2 times as many suicides, 45,979 in the United States, as there were homicides, 24,576. And whereas for every completed suicide in 2020, there were 26 attempts at suicide. And whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death for those between 10 and 34 years old, and the fourth leading cause for those between 35 and 54 years old, and whereas suicide is the only type of death that is 100% preventable, and by offering the public education, data, support, and services, we as a community have taken a step toward preventing another suicide by our residents. And whereas we are honored to be part of the healing process, raising awareness for and support of those affected by suicide by offering supporting services which address mental health illnesses and drug and alcohol addiction. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that September 2022 be designated as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the County of Indian River, Florida. And the Board asks all residents to learn how they may help, because suicide prevention is everyone's business. Adopted this 13th day of September 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners in Indian River County, Florida, and signed by all 5 commissioners. Milo Thornton, welcome today. And
Well, good morning. I want to first say thank you on behalf of our fellow board members at New Horizons, and remind you guys that we have a 24-hour mobile response team that will respond at any hour of the day to provide services. No cost, just simply call 772-468-3909 or 211, which is one of our many partners. So again, on behalf of New Horizons, I say thank you.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Wes Simmons with Suncoast Mental Health Center, and it's a privilege to be here today with you guys. And just want to say thank you on behalf of Suncoast. We do have a mental health symposium. It's going to be on September 28th. It's at Coral Shores Behavioral Health Center in Stewart. It's a free educational symposium, so anyone that wants to attend, the information's on our website at suncoastmentalhealth.org. So look forward to seeing people there and raising more awareness about suicide prevention.
Very good. Yes, sir. Morning.
My name is Chad Adcock. I am with 211, and we work closely with our partners at New Horizons and Suncoast and others as well. So we are the crisis line for everyone in this area and have been for more than 50 years. So I'm sure that everyone has seen the new 988 number, and in this area, 988 and 211 are the same thing. They've always been the same thing, and we continue to answer those calls and help those persons struggling. I really liked what the Reverend said at the beginning, just one more day. If we can all focus on when times are difficult to get through just one more day, that makes a big difference. So we know this is a crisis that's growing. Our calls have already doubled since July when 988 rolled out, and they're expecting as much as 800% increase. So the community at large, the country, the world is going through a mental health crisis, and our services and our partner services are very well needed, and we thank the Commission for bringing attention to this. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you all for all the hard work you all do. Why don't you all come up and we'll get one big group picture.
see it's thrown.
Yeah, about one more week and I'm got my ring back.
Hello, good to see you.
A hero.
Thanks for joining us.
Telling you, we need a bench.
You need to put X's on
On the end, not in front of me and Dylan. Always try to bob and weave around.
Starting to fill up.
Can you? Me too, listen.
Next is a presentation of the 2022 Outstanding Coordinating Board of the Year Award. And I think Phil Mattson will be kicking this off. Good morning, welcome, Phil.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today and to present the award for Outstanding Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. This is a board chaired by Commissioner Ehrman, and it's composed of social service agency representatives who really help us through every walk of life in the experience here in Indian River County. These rewards mean a lot to staff because we're essentially in a customer service business, and you think about human nature, we're all, myself especially, quick to send our cold hamburger back or to say, hey, this bill isn't right. But it's rare that you take somebody who's providing these essential services and really, really thank them. So it means a lot to staff. It means a lot to us to be here today, and thank you very much. Brian, with that, I'll turn it over to Brian Freeman.
Sure. Yes, and this is the award that was awarded by the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged just a couple of weeks ago. That is a state agency that's one of our funding partners for the Community Coach that provides door-to-door service all around Indian River County. And this definitely wouldn't be possible without the outstanding service that's provided by our operator, which is the Senior Resource Association. And it's just wonderful to be recognized by our peers around the state, for the outstanding service that we provide, through the Go Line and Community Coach public transportation system here in Indian River County. And also, thank you for the outstanding efforts by our TDLCB chairman, Commissioner Ehrman, over the last year and a half.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I can tell you it's an honor to be chairman of that group. That's a great group, a dedicated group. We have quorums at every meeting. We never have to worry about that. But the staff, Brian, Phil, and their staff, and the rest of the MPO guys do a great job. And it would be remiss if I didn't recognize SRA, Karen Deagle and her crew, Chris Stevenson, and those and that group also. They're a big part of this. And who would ever thought in Indian River County that we do over 1 million trips, a million folks on our busing in the county? I would have never grown up here. I would have never thought that was possible, but it happens. And in every aspect of what Transportation Disadvantage does, we're doing a pretty good job. And it was an honor to receive that award again, as Brian said, by our peers throughout the state. So thanks for the work that y'all do. I appreciate it.
Hey, question, Phil, is this the first time we've ever won this award?
Hardly, Commissioner O'Brien. So this is our second TDLCB award, followed by 2 DOPA awards. Don't be put off by that acronym. It means Designated Official Planning Agency of the Year. So that acknowledges the county's efforts in grant funding, getting the grants in on time, being proactive in getting more grants, taking care of customer service. This is for the operations of our board. This is the second of these awards. We've had 2 DOPA awards. We've won Outstanding MPO of the Year nationwide, a few other things. And really, a lot of county departments have, just like I say, it's very, very meaningful to them. Kristen gets a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award pretty much every year. We have our HUD program here. They're honored with High Achiever Awards. So, yeah, we have quite a bit of hardware. And like I always say, it makes up for the trophies for athleticism that me and Brian didn't win when we were kids.
So, Phil, according to the research I have, the previous TDLCB award was back in 2017. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So now, you were our MPO director beginning in 2001. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it was about 16 years before we won this first award for this?
No.
And I believe
DOPA award. I was the
I believe former Commissioner Bob Solari was the chairman beginning in 2009, so it took 8 years under his leadership. So it took about 24 years between you and Commissioner Solari to get to that award. Now, Chairman Ehrman's been on the job for less than a year, and Brian's been MPO director for only 2 years. So it only took 3 years to get the award again. I mean, what's going on? And you know, Brian also got the first ever $400 million 5-year work plan with DOT.
All right, wait till next year.
Well, congratulations to everyone involved, all jesting aside. It's a very, very important, prestigious thing, and we're very proud of the accomplishments of all of our MPO directors over the past, and the SRA and everybody else. Just, you all do a great job. We're very pleased that you all bring these awards home, and we are proud of you, Phil, despite what
Thank you so much. I'm
Commissioner
very
Ehrman
proud
may
of
be
Brian.
saying.
I think Brian's doing absolutely a
Chair.
magnificent job, and he's thinking of things I never thought of. And, you know, good job, Brian, and staff. John, Howard, Patty, thank you very much.
I know you threw some statistics out there and you're just trying to keep a little count there, but I was thinking about another count. I understand now we have 2 committees that are statewide recognized on this side of the room. I just pointing it out.
Okay,
This side of the room.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
I mean, and Commissioner Ehrman is involved with both of them.
Well, that's why he's the vice chair, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say 2 months will be the chair, so we're glad to have that. Okay. All right, thank you both very much. Thank you. We moved up item 14.
No pictures,
I'm
please.
sorry, you want a picture? Okay.
They get excited.
I mean, he brought the award and everything. We should at least take a picture.
Phil, you need to come get in the picture.
Oops. Phil, you can get in the picture. You can't get out of it that easily, but good try.
All right, good job.
Thanks.
Without fail.
So, Commissioners, we moved up item 14E to this point. So with that, Commissioner Moss, your item, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to invite Indian River Fire Rescue and Vero Beach Police Department down to each of the podiums. And while they're coming this way, I'd like to thank my colleagues for picking up any slack that there was while I was in the hospital. One of my hopes other than the obvious, which is to express my gratitude, is to call the community's attention to another problem of distracted driving. And there was an article recently in Vero News 32963 by Carolyn Schiller, which has all the data on that. But if you can please pay attention while you're driving. For those who don't know, 4 weeks ago yesterday, I was hit by a truck. While I was walking, I was a pedestrian, and I was taken to Lawnwood, where I spent a couple of days. Concussion, no broken bones, and recovering, which I'm very happy to report. But I wanted to express my gratitude to Fire Rescue and to Vero Beach Police Department. They were on the scene that day. And, a lot of times the discussion centers on budget and very perfunctory items. But there's such an important human element to this. And, frankly, with Vero Beach Police Department, Officer Farquharson and Chief Curry were there when I came to. I was unconscious. So when I came to at Lawnwood, I saw their smiling faces, and I just want to tell you what a comfort that was to me. I mean, truly, I will never, ever forget that. And Fire Rescue, I had the opportunity a few weeks prior to my own incident, I had the opportunity to watch someone else be rescued. I was out on my morning walk, and Fire Rescue was responding to a call, and they were moving an elderly gentleman out of a building on a gurney. And to see, I didn't say anything, and I don't think anyone saw me. I didn't want to interrupt the process in any way, but it was it stopped me in my tracks. I mean, literally, to see the expression on their faces, the care, the compassion, the concern. I mean, it was just, it was a harrowing moment to be that close to it, but it was also a very beautiful moment. And I want to thank you and all of Fire Rescue for that. But I'd also like to read the names. They weren't able to be here today, but I'll be going to the fire station to thank them personally. And of course, we have our new chief, David Johnson. And with Engine 2, we have Lieutenant Mike Rule, Engineer Dodge Karpinski, Fire Medic John Graneth, Fire Medic Justin Gillig, and Fire Medic Corey Curtis. And I think I told Chief I'd been there a little over a year ago to visit, and that, for the community, that's the fire station at the base of the Barber Bridge. So they do a lot of work on the lagoon, and I got to see their boat that day. And what a great group of people. I mean, I was so impressed, and I want to thank all of you, for saving my life. I don't know what could have happened. I don't remember any of it. I was unconscious. But I appreciate all of it. And with Vero Beach Police Department, Chief David Curry, Officer David Vargarson, Sergeant Bill Offit, and Officer Richard Chimenti. So thank you to all of you for the work you do every single day for all of us, and just a personal thank you from me for the caring concern that day, and for rescuing me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Something I'll never forget. Your caring concern. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I'm just very proud of our men and women of the fire rescue. Every day they go out there risking their lives to help others, and this crew in particular, there are at the beach station, they're divers, dive rescue personnel. They're heavily trained, so they did a great job all the time, especially with you that day. So I'd like to thank them. They wish they could be here today, but they had other commitments, promotional exams especially, kind of take precedence. But they wish they could be here, and they thank you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm happy to go to them. Thank you. Chief? Go ahead. Officer?
At every scene I go to, there are lots of people that go unrecognized as citizens of the county and the city that are there before us, especially your scene assisting you and helping you long before I get there. I was there within a minute, but obviously they're there first, and they're always there before we are. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that takes time out of their day to do the right thing and help people out when they're in need.
Well, thank you for that, and I'll have to get with you to find out their names too, so I can thank them.
I'm not sure if any of them even, sometimes they don't want to be recognized, sometimes they don't want to, they just want to do the right thing and then get on their way. But I will let you know if I have the names of those people that were there at that time.
Thank you. Well, we live in a wonderful community, we do.
So, Commissioner Moss, I can tell you, after my heart attack, my wife and I visited the fire station that the crew responded to, and I can tell you homemade brownies are really a big favorite. I'm a good baker. Passing that tip along. Now, I don't know about the Vero Police Department policy, but I know we have a no gift policy on our fire stations. But if you let me know the day you're going, as chairman, I will waive that rule for the day you're there, so they can get their brownies and show the proper appreciation. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Food
Chair.
was never on that list.
okay, well then there you go. And I'm sure we can make an exception for the city police department too. So.
Brownies and donuts are a myth within the law enforcement ranks, I can tell you that right now.
Those are approved. Okay, great, Chief.
Down brownies.
So I just would like to say a few words. Good morning to all of you. She's busy. Well, Commissioner Moss, we're certainly glad you're okay, and I can help your memory some. You were wide awake when I arrived at Longwood, smiling, and we had a few jokes, so unfortunately that's what concussions can do in that regard. I just want to say a couple quick words. You know, we can train and equip and outfit our men and women in law enforcement, but more importantly, there's character and the way they conduct themselves in servicing our community and responding to different calls, as David just mentioned. So that's what makes me even more proud, is the character counts. It always has and it always will. And that's what we strive to have with our police department, is people with character, people that care, people that treat you the way they want to be treated, the way their family wants to be treated. So I'm awfully proud of David, Sergeant Offit, and Richard. And I just want to share those few words. It's a great community. It's a group effort. It always is. Thank you to the fire department. I actually have, I've got to admit this, and I'm proud to say it in a sense, so bear with me. My oldest daughter is marrying a fireman in 2 weeks, and my second daughter is marrying a fireman next year, and my son just graduated the fire school, was in paramedic school. So, Joe, I'm not sure what happened. I know you're staring at me with disbelief, but so it's a great community. Our first responder community is great. And we only get things done when we do things collectively and as a team. So thank you for just acknowledging the men and women, Commissioner Moss. And I know the rest of you feel the same way. So
That's what I want to say. Chief, I appreciate what you all do every day. I was with you. I appreciate everything that our first responders do day to day. And I say that without incident. In other words, the chairman has identified that he needed a little assistance, and Commissioner Morse needed a little assistance. I don't want the assistance. I just want you to be there.
we're here if you need us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for your service. We greatly appreciate it. Good job.
Did you take a picture?
Yeah, okay.
We'll be without a picture. Chief.
Chief, great to see you on
All right.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Mr. Moss, you should go down, Mr. Moss, you should go down there and stand with him down in the middle.
She's coming.
Put it right in the middle.
I got behind.
That worked out well. It's definitely going to join you on that.
They already did that once.
Thank you again.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Commissioners, there's no minutes to approve, so we go to informational items. And my favorite thing on here is the Indian River County venue event calendar. It is chock full of cool things going on, but a couple highlights. October 1st and 2nd, once again, the county is hosting the State of Florida Swimming Special Olympics at the North County Aquatic Center. And again, volunteers are always welcome, and if you've never done this before, it's really an eye-opening event, and to see these athletes competing with all they've got, and then just the emotion they have, it's truly rewarding. So if you haven't volunteered yet, or if you haven't, do it again. October 1st and 2nd, the Special Olympics swimming. Our Parks and Rec Manager, Beth Powell, is here. I want her to come down and just say a couple quick words. We have the Jones Pier Conservation Area Volunteer Day and Sneak Peek. Beth, what's going on?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much. Beth Powell, Parks and Recreation Director. We have Jones Pier Sneak Peek October 1st, so we're inviting the public to come out, whether you want to come out and just do the sneak peek and tour, or you want to come help do some more volunteer planting efforts. We would love to have you. We're getting really close to opening, and so as we move through the construction and finalizing everything, we're excited to get everybody out to meet staff and to assist with the volunteer planting as well. I think we've done almost 7,000 plants just with volunteers, which is incredible. It's been a huge endeavor. So October 1st, and I'm going to sneak in that we have a Gopher Tortoise educational series that was brought about by some interest from a local Gopher Tortoise kind of rescue group. And this has September 21st on it, but we're also doing one tomorrow night at the IG Center, which is going to focus on permitting guidelines because the FWC is receiving public input right now, so we thought it would be a nice thing to bring the public in. So if people have questions, we have 2 Gopher Tortoise biologists, certified agents on staff, and so we'll be there to give a presentation. It'll also be available by Zoom, so you can call the Indian River County Intergenerational Center, and we'll provide you with any of the information if you'd like to attend that as well. And then we'll do the 21st, and then on October 8th, we'll do a site visit to one of our conservation areas. So we've got a series of different ways to experience all things Gopher Tortoise.
That's awesome, Beth. Thank you. And like I said, it's chock full of events going on. You guys are doing a great job. But looking forward to the Jones Pier thing. I think it'll be cool to get a look at that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
A couple other things. September 17th is International Coastal Cleanup Day. Any beach park, you can go there, volunteer, and help pick up trash. This is really kind of cool. Operation Green Light with our county facilities. Between November 7th and November 13th, we're going to light up all of the county buildings with green lights as a sign of support for veterans of all military conflicts, but an emphasis on the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. So November 7th to November 13th, we're lighting everything up green to show appreciation for our veterans. So I think that'll be pretty cool. And then the big event here coming up, and Kim, if you could cue up, next Tuesday, September 20th, is College Game Day in Indian River County. And we're going to have a big whoop-de-doo going on here in the chambers. All of the entire dais here will be decked out in our college game gear. We're going to have special introductions. We will have the Sebastian River and Vero Beach High School pep bands marching through and pounding the drums and playing the fight songs and all that good stuff. And then we'll have about 10 or 11 of our student athletes that have committed to continuing their career at the next level in college, and so they'll be here to be recognized. And so we're hoping everybody comes out, dress in your college game gear, and let's show support for the young men and women in our schools that are going on to continue their education and their athletic career. So should be a big fun day. Looking forward to it. And with that, Commissioners, anything else, or we'll move on? Okay. Don't forget, College Game Day, the 20th. That moves us to the consent agenda. Commissioners, does anyone wish to pull something for further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item 8AC.
8AC, okay. What? Anyone else? Okay, Commissioners, I'd like to pull item 8K and 8U. And then, is there anyone from the audience that wishes to have a consent agenda item pulled for additional discussion? Seeing none, okay, Commissioners?
Approval as amended.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Commissioner Adams, we'll go ahead and start with your item 8AC, please.
Sure, thank you. This is an item for a work order to perform shoreline performance modeling by Aptum, who is our consultant. It is basically a $42,000 work order. And I've talked to Rich about this, so he's aware of my concerns, and Jason. But my concern with this is that the price of what we are paying, we've already paid Aptum $8,000 to do some initial work on shoreline or on this TAC committee information. By the time we finish this, it's going to be $50,000 to a consultant. Are you guys familiar with the TAC committee and what is going on with that?
Is this the one with the Sebastian Inlet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So my concern or my issue really is that for the $42,000, they're going to be doing shoreline performance modeling for something that we already have that information. Our shoreline modeling was updated with the coastal management or the beach management plan update in 2016. I do not understand why it's going to cost them $42,000 to take that information and double check it, I suppose, since we just did it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that modeling and that plan is what we base our permitting on for our renourishment for Sector 3 that we just did. So I feel like the price is too high, first of all. Second of all, I have overriding concerns about why we are involved in the TAC to begin with. It is a process from DEP with the Sebastian Inlet to revisit the amount of sand that they're supposed to be collecting and going through that process with them. It's an update. They do it every so often. This is coming off of the lawsuit that was settled 20 years ago with the Inlet District and those numbers that were found at that point. Right now, that is how that process was set up. The county has asked for a seat at the table, and property owners in Sector 3 have asked for a seat at the table. The only thing that's going to come out of this, one way or another, is a lawsuit, and I don't really feel like we need to be spending $50,000 to get ourselves involved in a process that's going to end in a lawsuit that we're going to be dragged into. The district is an independent district, so it's not like they are beholden to us in any way, irregardless of what DEP says that they should be putting or they should be doing. So I'm of the opinion that we have a consultant that is just taking advantage of the fact that we already have this information. The Inlet District has 20 years of modeling information. There's no reason why she can't take that information and crunch the numbers and it cost a third, if not less, than the $42,000 that's being proposed. So at the very least, I think that this issue needs to be presented to Beaches and Shores for discussion because it is a Beaches and Shores topic. It deals with our beach renourishment plan and issues related to that. I don't think that's gone before Beaches and Shores. And this is a process that's been going on since January. So there's no reason, in my opinion, it shouldn't go to Beaches and Shores. At the very least, for them to vet and understand, since they're the committee that's charged with making recommendations to us related to that. But overall, I have issues with our involvement, and I have major issues with the cost.
Okay. Rich, did you or Eric want to comment, or?
Rich Berger, Public Works Director. First, we'll talk about the modeling. So the model that was done in 2015 was based off information of survey models data from 2012 and some information from 2002 to 2004. Currently, Aptum did the model. The work order is to take that model and update it with all the survey information of today's date and looking for longshore transport of sand for what is going on with the Sebastian Inlet. Basically, in a nutshell, what we have is Sebastian Inlet was supposed to give us 70,000 cubic yards a year annualized of sand material. In 2008, that changed to 90,000 cubic yards. If you look at the report that DEP puts out, we're getting 51,000 cubic yards. How is that impacting our beaches? We're hoping the model's going to help us see what's going on. As far as the modeling that Sebastian Inlet District's been doing, we're not comfortable with what they're showing us. And all we're looking at as staff's perspective is basically what's best for the county. We don't want to be involved in a lawsuit. We don't want to be involved in anything that has to do with, is it more sand, is it less sand? What we're trying to do is get comfortable with our beaches. They have to bypass sand because they interrupt the natural flow of sand into our beaches. We're putting a lot of sand on our beaches. We just put in 300,000 cubic yards just recently. We're going to be putting more sand probably in the future as time goes on. We just need to understand, do we need more sand from the Sebastian River Inlet District? Less sand? Is it good what we're getting? We don't know. That's what this TAC is all about. So we're trying to understand that. So that's where we're at with the modeling. The cost for the modeling, 40 grand. We've talked to our consultant. What they're doing is taking the model that they have now. It's a 3D model. Same thing that Dr. Cirillo is using, a 3D model, so we can understand how the longshore transport is going on with the sand. So that's where we're at with the modeling and the cost. As far as getting into the the lawsuits, that's not what we're here for. We have a seat at the table so that we understand how the impact to our beaches along the coastline. And that's what we're trying to do. We did not take this to Beach and Shores. Beach and Shores is next week. We can take it to Beach and Shores and then bring this back to the board. We're under a timeline crunch with the tax, so if we need to, have it, present this to Beach and Shores, we'd like to bring this back next week, if at all possible.
I think at the very least it should go to Beaches and Shores. I mean, I've said my piece on the issue. Rich and I have had several conversations on this, so he's not unaware of my overriding concerns. I still think the consultant is taking advantage as far as the cost goes, but at the very least, I think this should be something Beaches and Shores should weigh in on as far as our involvement in the TAC and that overall policy of where we're going with this, because there's more going on than just the shoreline modeling and all that stuff that we are going to get sucked into. And my concern is the longer this goes on, the more the consultant is going to charge for things that really other people have already done, and it should not cost this much. But if Beaches and Shores is next week, let's send it to Beaches and Shores and bring it back the week. I have no problem with that. I just, at the very least, that's what I would think would need to happen.
Okay. Rich, how many cubic yards did you say that they sent down?
Right now, they're feeding us 51,000 cubic yards. Based on the inlet district, current 2021, right now, we're showing a deficit from 2000 to 2021, almost 700,000 cubic yards that we should be seeing. That's what we're seeing as a deficit, according to the DEP's inlet district report. That's a lot of sand.
Right, so.
If you run the numbers, you're looking at $29 million.
Yeah, so it seems to me that the modeling is just going to kind of reinforce what we already know, that there's a deficit, and to me, it doesn't make sense to do this until they start sending at least the 90,000 down. So I see it kind of as, just spending money to tell us something we already know. But so, Commissioner Adams, as you pulled this, would you like to just make a motion to table this for a week until it goes to Beach and Shores?
Yeah, I'll be happy to make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Moss, to send item 8C to Beach and Shore and then come back next week. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Jason wants to.
Jason? Yeah.
Yep, so support the motion. So just some of the rationale. Our view all along of this TAC process is for us to be neutral participants. We're not trying, I understand there are property owners that are on one side and the inlet district on the other side. We're basically just wanting to do a finding of fact. I think the inlet district's position is, even though they're not putting as much as the plan says on there, that's sufficient. Is it? That's the question. Are the results in there? I'll say Sector 3 really hasn't performed well over the last several years. We did the first one, I think, around 2008, 2009. Hurricane Sandy came in 2012. We did one after that. And then we just, over the last 2 years, completed the third time, and there were storms involved there. I will say, as a point of history, the first time that we did this Sector 3 project, about the 2009 time period, Sebastian Inlet District contributed $4.6 million to the project as recognition, and they say that was kind of a one-time unique scenario, but might it make sense for that? I think, our position is we want to get the data and see if what the inlet district, if that modeling says what the district's doing is good, then that's what will guide us. If it says maybe there's a deficit, maybe there's somewhere in between. So support the motion to bring it before Beach and Shores, and then bring it back next week for board consideration. So thank you. And on the cost, we'll go back and talk to the consultant, see if we can. We've had some cost concerns, and we'll see if we can work on the price a little bit too.
Mr. Chair, just as a follow-up, Sector 3. If we are going to be asking the consultant to do anything, at the very least, they should be giving us what the expectation of performance is. I keep hearing that Sector 3 is not performing properly, but there's no threshold for what that performance expectation is. Secondarily, there's a reef offshore of Sector 3 and there's a seawall in Sector 3 that impacts that beach sand flow. So, you know, again, I think while we are trying not to align ourselves, but by the way that we're behaving in this process, we are aligning ourselves, and that is where my concern lies. But let's see what Beaches and Shores says, and we can have this discussion, and we can continue it next week.
Okay. So we do have the motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Moss. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Rich. Item K is the quarterly tourist development tax report. I always like to invite the clerk, Jeff Smith, up here just to give a quick chat on how things are going with our tourist tax. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman. Thank you. Jeff Smith, Clerk of the Court and Comptroller. This report is as of June 30th, which is the second calendar quarter of the year. And at this point, the state average of increase in tourist tax was about 20%. We were almost 23%. So we were doing good through June on tourist tax. We were up 37% in the first quarter, 5% in the almost 6% in the second quarter. So we were doing fine until July and August came. Now we're down 5% in each of those months. We've attributed that to obviously the higher costs. It was just announced this morning that inflation rose another 1/10% in the month of August. It's now 8.3%. So in the month of August and in July, we were down, excuse me, 5% in each of those months over what it was in July of August of last year. But through June, we did good, you know, so we're still okay. I think, you know, we'll rebound, but with the inflation and gas prices, families are, you know, they have hard choices to make, and sometimes vacations are one of the ones that they eliminate. But that's the story as of right now.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jeff, appreciate it. Commissioners, if someone would like to make a motion?
Move approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by myself. All in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Item U is just an increase to a blanket purchase order. I don't have any problem with the item, but since we are increasing a spending thing on a purchase order, I always like to pull these so that there's full public disclosure. So if anyone has any comments or questions, we are increasing the purchase order from $75,000 to $85,000. So with that, Commissioners, any questions or comments? Be happy to entertain a motion to approve then. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Vice Chair Ehrman. All in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you all. Constitutional officers, we have a request from our supervisor of elections, Ms. Leslie Swan, to roll back revenue received into her 21-22 budget. Good morning and welcome, Leslie.
Good morning, Chairman O'Brien and Commissioners. Leslie Swan, Supervisor of Elections. As you know, in our office, one of our responsibilities is to verify candidate and initiative petitions. And this past year, we verified over 34,897. And we also fulfill requests for data lists, which we had 58 of those. And I am asking to have that revenue roll back into this year's fiscal year budget. We had a few ballot on demand printers at our early voting site that kind of malfunctioned during the primary election, and we would like to replace those. So we're asking if we can have the $6,200 rolled back into our budget from the petition verification and the data list.
Very good.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by Vice Chair Ehrman to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Leslie, before you go, I think it's not a county issue, but I think a lot of people have questions about the upcoming city referendum and the petition that was submitted. So can you just walk us through what's happening with that? I know there's been a lot of things going on, and just kind of clarify for everybody what's going on.
Our responsibility at the elections office is to verify the petitions that are submitted to us. And the group had to collect 10% of the number of registered voters in the city of Vero Beach. They turned in, I think it was 3 or 4 groups of petitions, and they met the threshold. So my responsibility was to notify the city that they had collected the amount of petitions, and it's the governing body that provides us with the ballot language. Right now, obviously, I've been pulled into a lawsuit, so we'll have to see what happens with that lawsuit as far as that goes.
And then the lawsuit was the city council
Yes.
is asking a judge, and only the judge at this point can remove it from the ballot. Is that correct?
Right, because as we speak, we're printing ballots right now in my
Right,
office,
okay.
so.
And then I hope you have good legal counsel. Is that?
Oh, I have the best legal counsel there is. No, I really appreciate Dylan always stepping up and helping with the issues we get drawn into in my office.
And then Leslie, despite a couple of machines breaking down, I think the primary elections went very well.
Yeah.
So thank you to you and your staff. And I know Vice Chairman Urban here has stepped up and doing a lot of the canvassing board work. And
As well as yourself.
we're going to, later in the meeting, we're going to make that a permanent gig for him. So he'll be able to continue for the general election. But again, congratulations to you and your staff. I know they work really hard on this, and it's always a source of pride to me when our elections go smoothly. So again, thank you to you and your staff.
Well, I really appreciate it. They do an amazing job.
They do, yeah, very good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Leslie. Moving on to public items, we have a public hearing to consider an ordinance establishing the Liberty Park Community Development District. This is legislative in nature, and I believe Mr. Reingold will kick this off.
Thank you very much. On July 18th, Jonathan Johnson submitted a petition to establish the LPCDD. The item was scheduled for a public hearing for today. However, the applicant has submitted a request for a deferral until the October 18th board meeting. Staff supports the request. Therefore, simply just County Attorney's Office recommends that the chair open the public hearing, take any public comments that people may have today, and continue the public hearing until October 18th, and simply the board just take no action otherwise today. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Dylan. Go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to the Liberty Park Community Development District? Good morning, welcome.
My name is Bill Rigby. I'm the Vice President of the Westboro Basketball President City League. What I have today is like 2 questions. And reading the backup material that the county has, my question is that they say they did a full report on the CDC. My question is that we live in that community, and we have not been given the privilege for anyone from that group or whoever they are to come in our community and ask what benefit or how it's going to impact our community or anything. So I'm here this morning to ask is that if you're going to CDC, to me, it's mostly for, in my reading, in my research, I put it like that, in my research, is developers is the one that's going to benefit from it, and I could be wrong in my reading. And I'm not a lawyer, neither do I dictate that I'm an attorney. But I do know in my researching that if you look at Florida Stat 190, it's such a big chapter on that 190, on the CDD, Community Development District. It's so much that you research that you have to do on it. But I did research Marion County on the CDC, and I had some perks, and it does not have some perks. But my thing this morning is this. I don't know if the county is going to agree with this, and I know we got to go further on down the line with this. But my question today is that if you're going to do the CDD district, why is it that that community has not been contacted in any way, form, or fashion? It appears to me, I don't know about nobody else, I live in that community, And I feel, and we had a little discussion on it last night about that CDD. If you're going to have it, that CDD, then we should be allowed at the table to discuss that if it's going to come in our back door, which I think is like a 502 or 504 acre tract that they are planning to do that CDD in. Well, to me, it's not beneficial to our community if the CDZ come in and say, well, this is what we're going to do, but the hell with you guys over there. Excuse me. The hell with you guys over there. I think that if you're going to have that CDD, we should be allowed at the table to discuss what is coming into our community. And I have as this goes on, I will be speaking more on it, but I'm just bringing those points out today because I cannot remember the statute, what says this, but it says that if you're going to do something like that, you must give the community a full disclosure of what you're going to do. We have not had that opportunity to have a full disclosure of what's going on in our community. I'm going to take my seat on this.
Okay, Mr. Rigby, a couple very good points, and let me, for the sake of the audience, a community development district allows the developer to create kind of a quasi-governmental entity which gives them the authority to issue municipal bonds. And the advantage to the developer is because of the tax-free nature of the municipal bonds, they generally carry a lower interest rate. So for the developer, it allows them to raise funds, raise their capital at a lower interest cost. So that's the primary benefit to the developer. The community development district then kind of acts as a HOA organization for the management of the community, and then the bonds are paid back by an assessment on the tax roll of the property within the community. One thing a CDD does not do is give them any other governmental powers like being able to raise a police force or build hospitals or anything like that. It's strictly a financing mechanism for the developer. As far as the development impacts, Mr. Rigby, the Liberty Park project was approved back in 2008. There are a lot of public benefits listed in that development agreement, and if you don't have a copy of that, we'll be glad to get you a copy so you can see what roads are going to be improved. They're going to provide a couple different community parks and other things like that. So that's all kind of been approved back in 2008. But having said that, this board, when we reviewed some of the criteria that we would consider for a CDD, there was a lot of talk that the developer has to come in kind of with a wow factor to get our approval. And don't want to speak for any other commissioners, but I think we still would like to see some type of wow factor from the applicant coming forward. So with the board's permission, Dylan, if you could reach back out to Mr. Johnson or Mr. Kennedy and just advise them that it might behoove them to contact the Robasso community and see if they can address some of Mr. Rigby's concerns before the October 18th public hearing.
Commissioner, I actually probably won't need to reach out to Jonathan Johnson and Mr. Kennedy. I believe Mr. Kennedy is sitting in the room right now, and I am hoping that he has heard the comments from the speaker and will be reaching out to Mr. Rigby.
Okay, very good. Okay, so again, good points, Mr. Rigby. I appreciate you coming and speaking here.
I'm going to say this.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to take my seat. In my 60-some years in the Wabasso community, I'm 71 years old now, but in my 60 years in the community of the Wabasso community, there's only been two groups of people that I know that have came to the Wabasso Progressive Civic League community. I mean, it really said that. That is the president. I'm not saying president. I'm going to say the CEO of Bright Light, and the other one that came, the other group that came was DOT. Everybody else, nothing. And we're sick and tired of being sick and tired of that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rigby. Mr. Kennedy, good morning, welcome. If you could give your name and address, please.
Andrew Kennedy, good morning. With the approval process back in 2008 and prior to, we did go to the Civic League, I think regular Monday meetings. I would have liked to have had the discussion prior to this morning, but I'll give you my card after the meeting. And even throughout the public hearings that they had at the, the 510 widenings and the roundabout, which was very controversial. No Julianne Price, well, I know she's very involved in West Wabasso as well, so I'm happy to take it offline with you for sure. Appreciate your commentary. Very proud of Liberty Park. It's been a long journey. You see what's happening there. It's a great project. So we will be back in October, and I appreciate the patience. Staff has been great. I do want to point out Dylan Reingold. When Lakeside came before you all, Mr. Paladin is always forward-thinking, and how you reacted to that, and then the wow factor and everything else, we feel like we have that. Dylan's run a really good process, very transparent in terms of this whole discussion with CDDs and whatever else. So, at any rate, I'll come by and get you my card. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, appreciate it. Anyone else that wishes to speak on the Liberty Park Community Development District? Seeing none and having provided ample opportunity, I close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Technically, we'll continue
I'm sorry.
it till the October 18th.
Reopen.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, would you like a motion to continue the public hearing until October 18th?
So moved by Commissioner Adams. And a second by Commissioner Flesher. Any discussion on the motion to continue the public hearing to October 18th? Anyone from the audience? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. So we'll continue that on October 18th.
Thank you very much.
We have one public notice item. Mr. Reingold, would you do the honors, please?
Absolutely. We have a public notice of a public hearing scheduled for September 20th, 2022, to consider a resolution adopting a non-ad valorem special assessment role. This will be on hospitals for the local provider participation fund that the Board of County Commissioners had established last year. And again, this will be a public hearing for September 20th, 2022. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. We move on to county administrator matters. 11A is an update regarding the pending Sebastian annexation. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give a brief update to the board on staff's action since our last meeting in regards to the Graves Brothers annexation in the city of Sebastian. There were some meetings in late August that we did attend, and the city of Sebastian had requested, the city council members had requested that we put our comments in writing to them. So we did that on August 31st, sent that letter to Paul Carlisle, who's here, the city manager, and copied the city council members. Just want to, and a copy of that's in your backup, just want to reiterate our input here is that we're thankful for the opportunity to have input. We want to work with the city collaboratively on this, and we understand that some of our comments the city may agree with, some of them they may not. We had asked for an opportunity, and fortunately the city staff has agreed to meet with us later this week, I think on Thursday, to kind of go over some of our comments and see what types of things the landowner and the city agree with. If there are things that they don't, maybe there are some other options to work through. Do want to mention that the city council will be considering the second reading of the annexation at their meeting tonight. Did attend a meeting in late August where I heard two city council members mention that they were planning to go with a calendar that was presented at that meeting where the annexation, the land use amendment, the future land use map would be approved at in December 14th. I did hear 2 city council members vocalize that they were planning to move that forward. I think that's the intention. I think that's what staff's thought is. But in this business, it doesn't. You don't have to be that smart. You just have to be able to count to 3. So I haven't gotten to 3 yet. So hopefully they will vote to kind of continue that to the December 14th time period. It'll give us opportunity to develop that annexation agreement, which I think is key before the annexation happens. And we've broken down the letter, our comments, into 2 categories. One is things we'd like to see to enable the county to be able to provide the services that we will still need to provide, because while we have 5 municipalities in the county, there are certain services that are provided by the county even if you're in those municipalities. And in the case of Sebastian, chief among those here is water and sewer. We've got an interlocal agreement with them to do that, and in order to enable us to plan for that, we'd just like to see some guardrails. The key thing is like no more than 3 units per acre. The mixed use designation, as I understand, can allow for up to 10 units per acre. I don't think that's the city's intention. I don't think that's the landowner's intention. But some of the things we'd like to see in an annexation agreement is something, not more than 3 units per acre. So some other things like that that are in there that would basically lower that the potential consumption from that development to something under 2 million gallons a day. Whereas if you contrast that with the 10 with the maximum, that might be 5 million gallons a day. I will point out that our total consumptive use permit for the entire county is 12.8 million gallons a day, most of which we used right now. And so obviously kind of narrowing that down in a time of more and more scarce water supply, I think is very important for us. There are some other things in that. So the first category of those types of things, in order to be able to provide transportation, water, sewer, fire rescue services that we do provide there, contribution of a fire station site. The second category are kind of suggestions that we'd like to see. I categorize these as, maybe you might have that friend who's somewhat pushy a little bit, and if you're going to make a major life decision, that friend might give you advice. Before you make that life decision, I would say that's kind of what this category is. Here are our thoughts on your major decision, because this is a major decision for Sebastian. It could be a significant change, could be a very positive change for Sebastian, but it could be a significant change. And so that's kind of like, we're going to provide that advice. Take that advice if you will, or not. So basically, that's where we are. Hopefully, we will continue to have an opportunity to talk about that on Thursday. That this gets continued tonight, and we've got the opportunity to kind of hash out that annexation agreement with that timeline of December 14th would be a great amount of time. Again, appreciate the opportunity with staff and the landowner to talk to us and consider our input. So with that, that's just my update, and if you have any thoughts or questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Jason, Commissioners, any question of Jason? I've got just a couple quick comments. One is, again, we're not trying to tell the city they can or cannot annex. I think our concern is just we want to make sure that, you get one chance to get everything right, and that we want to make sure that everything is right going forward so that this annexation can be a very positive impact for the city and also for the county. Would like to just point out that in a lot of the discussions I've heard from the city council and also at the workshop I attended, the city kept pointing to Liberty Park as this big, awful development right near our border, and how huge it was, and all these, and they made a point on the map showing that, oh, look, there's going to be 500 homes here. Well, Liberty Park is coming in about 1.9 units per acre. So I would just suggest to the city of Sebastian and the residents, if you thought Liberty Park was this big, awful, huge development at 1.9, I think we're being pretty generous saying maybe keep it at 3 units per acre, which would be 50% again larger than Liberty Park. So I think, my recommendation to the city would be more like 2 units per acre would be a much more workable number. And again, if you thought 1.9 was huge and terrible and awful, I don't think the residents of Bastrop would want higher than that going in. So that's just my comment there. And some of the wording that Jason provided, keep in mind that this is suggested wording for the actual annexation agreement. So in some of the areas, Jason did use the word shall, so that the owner shall provide land for a fire rescue station. So just keep in mind, we're not trying to tell the city what to do. It's just this is suggested wording for a legal document. And going in with that annexation agreement, you do want the developer to make some of those concessions. And so the wording wouldn't be the landowner might think about donating land for a fire station. The owner shall donate land for a fire station. So it's just kind of, again, we're not trying to tell the city what to do. It's just the suggested wording does need to be more stronger because it will be in a legal agreement that you want the property owners to follow. And then finally, just, and I think, Commissioner Adams, you went through this quite a bit in Fellsmere, but right now the city is in a great point from a negotiating point of view. You have negotiating power right now to get some of these concessions and to control the terms of that annexation. And if you don't do it prior to the annexation, you lose your negotiating power. So it's very important that all of these things get done properly. And I've heard, Council Member Dodd has stated several times that he would like to see workforce or attainable housing in the annexation. And I think that's a great idea, but I think the only way you make that happen is by putting it in writing in the developer's agreement. So you would say, we want overall density to be 2 units per acre or less, and we want 25% of that to be attainable housing. You put that in the developer's agreement up front, so it's in there, and the future developer has to follow that. I've also heard Councilmember Dodd talk about looking for an industrial park or some type of work center. And again, a great thing for the city of Sebastian. But if you don't put that in there, some wording as to, there will be at least 100 acres of industrial land, if that's not in the annexation agreement, you can't just rely on a potentially future developer saying, okay, well, I might do that for you, I might not. You need to put it in the annexation agreement. So all the things that the city wants from this, I really think they need to put it in the agreement up front so the city is then assured that those things will happen and the vision that the city council has for this land will be fulfilled. If you may have the vision now, but if you don't put it in writing, there's no guarantee that a future developer will follow your vision. And the only way you can get that done is by putting it in the developer's agreement. So I hope that the city considers that and takes the time to get all these things in writing and get the developer's agreement done prior to the annexation. And then that way the city will ensure that their vision for the future will be fulfilled. And I think that'll be great for the city and for the county. So that's my comments. Did you have anything, Commissioner?
Just to kind of follow up on that, first of all, thank you guys for being here today, and thank you for the continued lines of communication. I think it's a good thing. It's good for us to understand what you guys are doing so we can plan, help you accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish with the annexation. I just wanted to kind of follow up on something Commissioner O'Brien said. And that is accurate that the city of Sebastian, you're in the catbird seat right now. You hold all the cards. You're in that position where you can craft what you want your future to be with that property. You can craft what you want it to look like. And again, just talking from my experience, which I know is different than the experience you guys are going through, but the annexations that happened in the city of Fellsmere, one of the reasons that we did do the annexation agreements that we did was because we recognized that for a project that large, I mean, you could just look at Liberty Park that was approved in 2008, and there's really been no shovels in the ground yet. For something this large, it's it's you guys that are going to plan it, but it will be future councils and future administrators that'll be shepherding that project through. So ensuring that those future decision makers understand what the vision is that you guys have at the time of the annexation. Now, putting that in writing just really provides that guidance, not only for future members of council and future administrators, but for future developers, and if that property changes hands, so everybody's on the same page about what expectations were, what conversations happened, because even, with the city of Fellsmere, council has changed, city managers have changed, community development directors have changed since the time of those annexations, so codifying it in an agreement of some sort really protects what y'all's vision is, what you wanted to see there, and make sure that that happens in the future. So that was one of the things that was important to us, and I think sometimes we forget how long it takes these projects to go from thought and idea and vision to things coming out of the ground, and sometimes what was intended is lost because it's just not included in those agreements. So I think that's one of the reasons why we keep encouraging that, but I think you guys are doing, great things. I know you have a good vision and you're going through the process, and I appreciate, again, just being able to have these types of communications open and honestly, and I look forward to your meeting this evening.
Paul, did you or anyone wish to speak? I know I see Councilmember Bob McPartland showed up. Anyone? Paul, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So I don't know where the message came from that the city wasn't going to put constraints in an annexation agreement and through agreements with the landowner and in consultation with the county. I think it's a great opportunity for us to meet with Jason and Phil and our planning staff and talk about the letter that Jason and the request that the county had sent to us. Some very good thoughts in there. We'll look at them and we'll talk about it. We'll go into in-depth detail and discussion about it. I really think that it's really good that we're having this communication. And I know some people took the letter very strongly, and I spoke to Jason. We've been in communication about it, understand the position. That's just suggested language, so walk everybody off the cliff, and we're still on good terms. Everything is going well, I think, extremely well. The date line and the timeline, that could always fluctuate based on how we negotiate contracts, but it's always been our intent to have an annexation agreement. It's always been our intent to memorialize some of these things where we can legally do it. You can't contract zones, so some of those things have to be played out in that annexation agreement. So we'll take all that under advisement. We've given Jason's letter to Paul Gugelman, who is one of the leaders in annexations and annexation agreements, and he's looking at that language and seeing what can be incorporated in and how it may be incorporated in. And then we'll also have to sit down with the landowner. But I agree, we have to look at this in a holistic way. We have to plan it for the future. We're doing that, contrary to comments, not from the commission, but from other public members. We are looking at all of those issues, and we appreciate the comments. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the county and the other groups to make sure that we get something that's going to be a benefit to Sebastian, Indian River County, Wabasso, Fellsmere, because they're all touch. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to collaborate. But I appreciate it. Thank you for your comments.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for being here. Did anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay. Seeing none, we don't need any action on this. So, again, thank you to the members of the Sebastian Council and staff that were here. We appreciate it and look forward to continuing discussions and collaborating together with this. And thank you all for being here. Ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between Indian River County and the Teamsters local union, effective October 1st. Mr. Brown.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So happy to announce that we have reached a tentative agreement between the Teamsters and the county on a collective bargaining agreement to cover the Teamsters union that would begin October 1, 2022, run for 2 years through September 30th, 2024. These are the folks that are blue-collar workers. You're talking road and bridge, utilities, parks and rec, facilities management folks, about 270 in total. We had a very good conversation and discussion with them. I'd like to thank Steve Myers, the business agent for Teamsters, and the union bargaining team and stewards that participate in the process. I think the conversations were very good. Also, the management team, Suzanne Boyle, who's here to help me out if I get in trouble, as well as Mike Zito. And we had inclusion from with several of our department heads that know the operations and are able to provide good input on that. So with that, the union did ratify the agreement on September 6th. Some of the highlights: it's a 6% general wage increase for the first year, continuation of the anniversary increases, a couple of other things about promotions and demotions, and some operational items. The second year would be continuation of the annual increase, and we would have a reopener for a general wage increase at that time. So the estimated cost over the 2-year time period is $2,356,000 for the total agreement for the 2-year time period. So staff would recommend that the board approve the agreement. I'd also recommend that the board approve the 6% general wage increase for our non-union employees, the same, and continuation of the annual merit increase. So with that, I'll stop talking, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Any questions of Jason? Jason, I just want to confirm that the new contract did contain the clause that the Teamsters have to wear college apparel on the 20th. Is that?
It might be pushed.
Suzanne, did we get that in there?
That's in the uniform section, I believe. Special September 20th.
Oh, boy. Okay. Commissioner Adams.
Mr. Chair, if there's no comments or concerns from the commission, I'll be happy to make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Adams. I will give the second to Vice Chairman Ehrman. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on the motion before us? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. We're going to take a short 10-minute break here. We'll come back at 10:45.
He didn't like that.
We'll come back to order. We have completed the county administrator matters, now going on to departmental matters. 12C, the Children's Services Advisory Committee recommended program funding allocations for fiscal year 22-23. And Mr. Zito is going to kick this off. Good morning, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Zito, Assistant County Administrator. Good morning, Commissioners. Before you today is the annual funding allocations for fiscal year 22-23. County takes a layered approach to reviewing the various applications that come into the tiered committee structure, of which the main committee has the ultimate recommendation to you all. Does have a commissioner liaison. Commissioner Moss is present, and staff. Leanne Uribe is with me, newly appointed program coordinator for the upcoming fiscal year, and under the changes that were approved this year under the renewed commitment to children's services. And with that, I present $2.4+ million of funding for the programs. The process involved 46 applications. At the end of the process, 3 were withdrawn. In fact, 42 were funded, and attached in your backup is the actual allocations that were recommended by the committee. And with that, staff recommends approval as allocated. There was some discussion at the Grant Review Committee and Main Committee level about a few of the allocations, and with that, we decided to bring it to departmental matters this year. It's been a consent item in the past, but we're here and ready to answer any questions that we can. Thank you.
Just one quick thing. Earlier this morning in consent, we approved the memorandum of understanding with the health department. So Leanne, you're now an official county employee, so I think, right? Almost? Okay,
Almost.
well,
23rd.
Premature congratulations, but
I'll accept it.
well, welcome to the county. All right, Commissioner Adams, you had a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in front of us is I'm sorry. The CSAC has recommended that we fund children's services at the budget that's approved by them for 22-23, correct? That's what's in front of us?
Correct.
All right, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Okay. I'll second the motion, and then any discussion? Commissioner Fleischer?
Mr. Chair, I have some concerns in looking at the CSAC recommendation. First and foremost, I want to thank all the members of CSAC for their assessment, their review, their time, their scrutiny. But in looking at one of the approvals, there's 42. One of them, the Young Journalists program, I had some grave concerns as to what the menu of delivery was. I had the opportunity to look at the presentation by these young individuals that are in our schools, in the school system, and presenting rather politically motivated, agendized, a product. I believe that they're being indoctrinated in a certain path. Whether it's right or wrong is indifferent, but I think that the discussion that they're being presented with, it was scripted. I had the chance to watch the presentations. It's not about journalism. It's about political motivation. And in doing so, I would have brought it here so we can see it, but I didn't want to give it another shred of airtime. It is inappropriate to be done in our schools. I discussed it with the school board member, and the school board member brought it to the superintendent. He was quite surprised as to the content of what was being said by innocent children that did not have a stance, until they were given a stance, a scripted stance. And it's not about journalism. It's about molding individuals with a mindset. And I don't believe that taxpayer dollars should be allocated to political motivation. I think it's inappropriate, unfair, and it's manipulation of the children. And I can't in clear conscience support the actions or decision for the CSAC to approve financial allocation to the Young Journalist Program. In addition, in the future, I'm going to propose a workshop because I feel it's necessary that the public knows where their tax dollar is going, that it's not about child care, child service, adolescent service, in all aspects. There's a few that slip through, and this is one of them. This is not appropriate for our community to have children manipulated through this process. So I don't feel that it's right, just, fair, and again, in the future, I will propose that we have a workshop where all applicants, after they've been vetted through CSAC, to come before us and to have it in front of the cameras as to what type of programs are truly being delivered to the children. It'll be a lengthy meeting, but I think it's the right thing to do because we're good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, and the only way we can be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar is know what we're allocating the funding on with the blinders off. And this is just, I don't understand how this one slipped through. I don't know if any of you have seen the video, but they talk about a lot of the things that we see on national TV. I understand that children need to learn journalism. We do need journalists, but the topics were not appropriate. And I believe that's it's being driven by one individual, and I don't think we should support it.
Thank you. Vice Chair Urban?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I do also agree with Commissioner Fleischer with this. I think that when you're talking for children, certain children, and I think a journalism type thing is a great thing, but I feel that kids should be talking more about what happened on the playground or happened in art class, or or what their school is doing. I mean, I remember, heck, when I was even in high school, and the yearbook or the school newsletter that came out was always about things in high school, just talking about what was going on at the high school, what the football team did, or what the baseball team did, or who got a scholarship, that type of stuff. Sometimes intentions are the best on everybody, and I'm not going to sit here and actually criticize. I just don't know if that was a appropriate kind of material, but yet there's probably some other issues amongst the whole financing of children's services that we might have overlooked in the past, and I think whether it's an accounting issue, whether it's maybe a curriculum by somebody else that got kind of swept under the rug and didn't notice, and I'm not criticizing CSAC, I appreciate the job they did, but I think we have changed that. We're looking to make a new CSAC out of this. We were talked about having an ordinance, and we backed off on that, and we've restructured it with Leanne coming aboard and possibly an assistant or whatever, how Jason wants to structure it. I think the CSAC board members, a couple of them are here, know that we're looking to tighten the strings on this, to be more attentive of where $2.4 million and possibly more in the future is going. So I would agree with Commissioner Fleischer. I would like to send this back to the young journalism area, send it back to CSAC, have them take a look at it and revet it and make sure that they're okay with it and send it back to the board. I think that's maybe where it should go, and I think, you know, what was done on other things in the past, we can move forward now under the new structure and make things better, because I'm sure there's questions in other areas of this. But my suggestion would be to send the young journalism program back to CSAC to be revetted and sent back to the board, whatever they decide, and then we decide then. But I don't know if I think that might be the way to go. But either way, I'm open for suggestions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Moss?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I've recently, this year, been appointed as the County Commission liaison to CSAC. And you may recall a few months ago, I had suggested that we have greater accountability and greater transparency. It was not particularly well received at the time, but after that, we did vote to have some of the agencies come before us, and I'd be happy to have a workshop. I think that's a good idea. Yes, it would take time, but I think it's certainly worth it. As far as the Young Journalist Program goes, I actually attended one of the sessions. It was before COVID, so I think I was on City Council at the time. Had nothing to do with CSAC. But, you know, frankly, I was impressed by the work that he did that day in the schools. And that was focusing on vocabulary and writing skills. As far as this video goes, if you're referring to the video in March of this year, I had a link to that. I watched the video. I'm not sure what specific topics were found to be offensive, so I'd ask to understand that better. I mean, you don't have to repeat the entire thing, but just name the topic that was the offending topic, just so that I can understand it better.
The politically charged discussion on the origins of global warming and what we're doing wrong, and in addition, some of the social understandings. I just think that it's not for an outside program to be hosted at the schools under the school's watch. Again, I mean, the school superintendent can speak. It's his ballyhoo, but I just don't think it's right. I just don't think that we should be funding something for politics. We should be funding stuff, again, as Vice Chairman Ehrman said, you know, when you do things like that student government thing, and when you do the journalism program, audio-visual, you're learning an art, a talent, and I commend the program, but the content is just off. It seems like they were scripted, and if you watch that video, you could see that they were learning as they were speaking, and it was the words of others. Mm-hmm. And that's not a building program, and it's not a program that can develop into a skill. It was almost like it was puppetry. Mm. And I don't know, it was unsettling just to watch it. If you weren't unsettled, okay. But I believe that the information that was given was unknown to the delivery of before the camera, before that time. I don't even know if they were able to have input, I mean, that's the art of journalism, not just to get information, memorize it, or attempt to memorize it and deliver it before a camera.
Well, I agree with you that it should not be political. That being said, I believe the intent is to recreate what would actually happen in real life. And, you know, unfortunately, real life is political, as it turns out, more often than we would like. But I think we need to have a conversation about this to determine, you know, just how realistic you want it to be. I understand your point, and I agree. You know, we don't want to support political positions. I agree with you. That being said, you're taking a step back, because I think what he's trying to do is create a real life situation. And we all know if you turn on the TV, it's usually political.
No, I'm not taking a step back. I just can't support something that is indoctrinating kids in a certain pathway that's, you know, again, we can cover sports, we can cover reading, writing, arithmetic. You know, to get into the politics of what we're dealing with in a global level, and what is being done, and start kids talking about you know, the economy and what, I just think it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Think of the fact of who the children are. They're not yours. They're ours. They're our future. They stand this tall. They're standing before the camera, and they're reading material, and they're a sponge. And we're just putting more into the sponge by supporting this program. I think this program needs to be sent back to CSAC, and I think it needs to be vetted out before we put taxpayer dollar into a program that has a little bit of caution. There are a lot of people in the community that feel that way too. I believe there's some that might be in the audience. I believe that there's a lot more that would be here, but unfortunately, they have to work. Okay? But I'm looking about the workforce up the road when we all retire, because the kids are being taught something that they need to learn as they progress in age, not in elementary school. It's just inappropriate. I can't believe we're having a conversation about school. I think it's a school district challenge, because it is hosted in the school, in the schools, but the program itself, we're on the funding end. I don't believe that we should be funding something that's going to be sent to the school system that's going to be, it's like passing off a problem too. I just think that this thing is best served by sending it back to CSAC so that they all can look at the video. Maybe that their vetting, their assessment was not as broad as I feel it should be. It was not magnified enough to know what the content is, and I just feel it's inappropriate. I can't support it. I wish that was the direction that we would go in. Approve 41, and the other one we'll look at. And in addition, I would also like to see, again, a workshop. It's going to be, and again, I'll remind you, it'll be a long day. Everybody needs to come up to the plate and present what they're doing, their curriculum, their day-to-day activity, because it's done at CSAC, and I get to understand that, and understand there's minutes. As you know, we have annotated minutes. Not everything's discussed there. We're going to put good people there. I get it. But I think it needs to be done before the taxpayer, before the cameras.
I couldn't agree more.
And I will be proposing that in the future. It's too late this year. But what we can do as a correction curve is to approve 41 and send 1 back. I don't think it's going to change much if we do that, just to err on the side of caution, because it was some controversy that was delivered. And again, there's some people that are very unsettled in the community as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm fine with that. We can hear both sides of it, which is always good, to hear both sides of any situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams?
Yes, I have a question, a process question. CSAC, a current CSAC process for somebody to apply for funding. They apply for funding through our application, correct? The application, does that speak to what their measurable outcomes are going to be? Their anticipated measurable outcomes are listed. Does it speak to any documentation related to content? For example, Healthy Start Coalition has a couple of programs. I think the Mothers at Home program is one that comes to the top of my head, where they go into the hospital and they speak to the mothers about different things, babies and beyond. Or they also have an at-home program, the doula. Do we get copies of what the content of those programs are going to be?
Not in the application.
No, they can submit additional.
But it's not required in the application.
In the application, no.
But what is required is what their measurable outcomes are going to be.
Yes.
And then it's a reimbursable funding? Yes. Is that correct? In order to be reimbursed, do they have to demonstrate that they've met measurable outcomes?
They have to submit their quarterly reports on time, yes.
Okay.
And
then, so all the programs that we funded, that are proposed to be funded this year, for the most part, were funded last year as well.
yes, correct.
So this year, when they came back, when they reapplied, they have to go through a process related to ensuring that the measurable outcomes that they indicated they were going to meet the prior year that their funding was based on, they have met. So that is a discussion of the grant subcommittee.
Yes, it would be.
So they apply, and then the application goes to the grant subcommittee. The grant subcommittee has a general meeting on the applications and then schedules interviews with each organization for each program. And those are 15-minute individual interviews-ish?
Yeah, ish, 20, 25 minutes.
20, 25 minutes, where the program administrators or whoever's involved who has applied comes in to this room, I believe, correct? And how many people are on the grant subcommittee?
10.
10? And they're interviewed, they are interviewed on their application. They answer questions for 20 or 25 minutes from 10 different people that make up a swath of the community, correct? Right. And that committee is separate from the CSAC committee?
This is the subcommittee.
The subcommittee?
Recommendations and then take to the main committee.
Okay, so then the subcommittee gets together after they've interviewed everybody, and they come up with a proposed recommendation to the big CSAC committee. So that recommendation goes to CSAC, and then CSAC further vets those programs, makes changes to the recommendation, or whatever the case may be as far as what they want to ultimately recommend to the commission.
Yeah, so it's a two-day process for the subcommittee right in this chambers this year. First year it was here.
2 days.
2 days.
Okay.
And then the committee then meets the ensuing Saturday to discuss the applications.
Okay.
Make the
The
recommendation.
subcommittee meets the following Saturday separately.
And then the main board convenes to take those recommendations and then ultimately submit what's in front of you today.
Okay. So by the time it's gotten to us, it has had 2 stops with the subcommittee and the regular committee, but in those 2 stops, it's actually been vetted multiple times because they've had a pre-meeting, the interview meeting, the post-meeting, and then the CSAC meeting. So 4 times, basically. My understanding of this particular program is that there was a discussion at the big CSAC committee related to this program. What was the vote on the funding moving forward?
6-1. We had 7, we just barely had a quorum, and so 6-1.
So it was 6-1 to move this program forward for funding, to recommend funding for this program.
Yes.
I would not characterize 6-1 as a underwhelming vote. I mean, that's an overwhelming approval from CSAC for us to fund this program, which would indicate to me that it's meeting its measurable outcomes, and that the committee, which I've been in on some of those subcommittee meetings, they're very intense. It's not like they just come in and rubber stamp stuff. I mean, it is an intense interview process. I'm sure you could probably speak to that more. But to characterize this process as nobody knowing what's going on or no vetting happening, I think is a disservice to the 10 volunteers on this grant subcommittee and the 7 volunteers that are on our regular committee. That's 17 people. And they're not people that are unaware or that aren't involved in other funding organizations that don't know how to vet a program. So for them to overwhelmingly recommend this package to us, I think carries weight. And I think because it is not just a one-day process, it is a very long process to even get this recommendation to us. And I think that should carry weight. Secondly, when is this funding supposed to happen, supposed to become active?
October 1st.
October 1st. Today is September 13th. So I don't see how it is not fair, because until we accept or recommend whatever, approve is the word I'm looking for, sorry, approve this funding package, none of the other funded partners know if they are going to have if they are approved or not, because it's all wrapped up in this. And I've already had several agencies reach out with concerns about if they're funded, how much they're funded. I mean, they don't really even know at this point what or what not has been approved, because nothing's been approved. And it's not fair to our agencies that we have long-term relationships with to not allow them to plan properly for their future programming. And then the last thing I'll say is, if we want to change the process, which is one of the reasons why the Children's Trust was proposed, so there would be more oversight and there would be the ability for more staff to make sure measurable outcomes are being met, to change that application process if it needs to be changed, then we can do that moving forward. And I think we've all committed to do that moving forward. We've had multiple conversations about the roles and responsibilities of current CSAC versus what our expectations are for a future CSAC or Children's Trust or whatever you want to call it. It will not be an independent thing. It will still fall under our umbrella and come to us for approval, but they will be other catches along the way. So I have no problem with that moving forward. My problem is we are going to try to retroactively change something that we have never held anybody else to that standard. And content. Our application does not speak to content. And I think it's a very slippery slope without having the mechanisms in place in that application process or in our current process to go diving into content and to micromanage the CSAC committee who's charged and has delved into the validity of the programs. On a side note, I don't think that there's anything wrong with expecting students to understand current events. Whether you think that those current events are actually current events or not, I think the purpose of any program is to create critical thinkers in our community. That is youth development. So to say that the only things kids are capable of discussing is the choices in the lunchroom or what games they played on the playground, I think you're doing a disservice to children by not thinking that they are capable of putting thoughts together. This is a voluntary program. Students aren't required to go to this, correct? So if the parents have an issue with the program, they are not required to sign their child up for it. And it is in how many schools?
I believe they may be in 7 now. I know they started out in 4, and they've expanded in the last year, 2 years.
And this is the second year they've applied for funding from the county? But they have been in existence for longer?
Yes.
Okay. So again, the motion on the table is to approve the funding that was recommended by the CSAC. Again, if you guys want to change the process and we want to delve into this next year, I think that that's fine. That's admirable. That's what the whole conversation has been this whole time. But to change the rules in midstream is not, because if we're going to go back in to delve into content with one program, we have to delve into content with other programs. And I know that there's a lot of people in the community that don't think that the doula training is appropriate. And I don't want to, that is what CSAC is for, to make sure they're making measurable outcomes. If we want to put something in there about content, we can do that, but that would be moving forward in applications. I think it's a slippery slope for us to get involved in.
Thank you. I'm going to have comments, please. Let me start by saying I was the commission liaison for 14 years to Children's Services, and I'll echo Commissioner Adams' comments. I've always thought that CSAC, and particularly the Grant Review Subcommittee, is one of the best things we do. I know a lot of the people that volunteered on that, they put in a tremendous amount of time reviewing those grant applications. And if we keep in mind, the Young Journalist was funded in the current fiscal year, the 21-22 fiscal year. So that means that they have had to turn in their quarterly reports. It means the Grant Review Subcommittee has probably done at least one visit to observe them and look at what they're doing. And so the application workshops, the 2 days of that, those are publicly noticed and open to the public. The CSAC meetings are publicly noticed, open to the public. So if anybody had any concerns about the process, the Taxpayer Association or anybody like that, there are multiple opportunities for them to sit in and observe and provide comment during that whole process. So I think the Grant Review Subcommittee is a very thorough vetting job. And again, I've always thought it to be one of the strongest things that we do. As far as a workshop, I would say no. I mean, we don't make the tourist development agencies come before us and make their presentation. They make their presentation before the TDC. The TDC reviews it, they vet it, and then they make the recommendation to us. And I don't think that we need to start getting bogged down and having every single agency make presentations. Tomorrow night, we have our first formal budget hearing, and in that budget, we are funding some nonprofits. We haven't had them come before us and make presentations, so, I won't be here, but I don't think future boards want to spend 2 days just repeating something that's already been done to CSAC, so I would be opposed to the any workshops. And then finally, I guess I saw a different video than a couple of you, because the video I watched, one, I thought it was very well done for 4th and 5th graders. They had some good graphics in there. They had a sports segment. I didn't find that very political. They had a weather forecast in there, weather report in there. I didn't find that political. Nowhere did I hear them say the word global warming. And nowhere did I hear them say the origins of global warming. They did have a segment on climate change and the impact that it might have on, I think it was like 30 different endangered bird species, how climate change might have a negative impact on the bird species. Nowhere did I hear the students say the cause of climate change is this. They just reported it as climate change and the impact it will have on certain bird species. Now, whether you believe in the cause of climate change, but I think if you turn on the evening news every night, there are segments on record heat, record drought, record flooding, record wildfires. I believe, yeah, our climate is changing. I'm not saying how or why. Is it natural? Is it man-made? Not saying that. I'm just saying it is changing. I will point out that Governor DeSantis authorized or allocated $500 million to go to counties for resiliency projects. So ask yourself, resiliency to what? To climate change. So I think it's a fact. And when I watch the kids, I think they did a lot of good journalism things because they referenced their sources. It was, okay, according to a report by ABC, according to an article in XYZ newspaper, and then they read that section of the report. So I found that they referenced multiple sources, which I think is good journalism. They did not point to the origin of anything. They did not call it global warming. They just said it's climate change, and this is the potential impact on certain bird species. And Vice Chairman Ehrman, with all due respect, you know, I was in high school 47 years ago, and I did not have a cell phone. I didn't have instant internet access. I didn't get news alerts every time the sheriff's helicopter was flying around. It's an entire different world than when you and I were on a playground. And it's gotten much more modern. It's become instant news. And quite honestly, if I were a young kid now, I'd be scared to death what kind of world we're leaving for them. So I would be very concerned about it. I'd be very interested in it. You know, I'm sure these kids are watching the news. They're seeing entire towns get flooded out. They're seeing families getting drowned and stuff. Heck yeah, I think they're going to be concerned about that. I think it's, Commissioner Adams, you said it, to think that these kids aren't engaged in thinking about these things, I think is wrong. So I saw the video I saw, I did not find any political reference. I thought it was well done. You know, I agreed some of the kids were a little nervous. They were kind of bouncing around a little bit, and but you know, that's good. They're learning public speaking. Some of the words were big words, I'll grant that, but again, they were reading a report that they had referenced, and so those were the words in the report, and they were reading that report, they referenced that report, and I think that's good journalism. If you're going to state something on the air like that, you should reference where you got it from. So I found it to be very good. I did not find it to be politically motivated, and I'm supportive of the fact that the Grant Subcommittee committee recommended funding and that the CSAC committee, by a 6-1 vote, recommended funding. So I know a lot of those people on CSAC. I know a lot of the people on the Grant Review Subcommittee, and I trust their decision-making, I trust their judgment, and I trust our process with how we've done it. So I'm in favor of moving this forward. And that's kind of my position. So,
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Fleischer.
Forgive me, I'm a little dizzy from the spin, but you know, I heard a couple of things. One was about, you know, discrediting CSAC in no way, shape, or form. Am I suggesting anything other than support of a team that's working and volunteer and to work so hard, and some very key area experts who are doing the right thing for the children? I just think this slipped by. I want to point out something else. A lot is being made about a 6-1. I recall at a TDC meeting that something was approved 8-0, and we changed it. And we changed it after the vetting, the production, the presentations, and the review, the ranking, a lot of work went into it. And we said, you know what, we don't want to fund that. Okay. Well, we don't want to go in this direction. We don't want to go beyond that. Okay. We've done it several times. We're not starting a precedence. So I just want to clarify that, and there were other committees that made strong recommendations that were, again, assessed at the commission level. We have the ability, the responsibility to hold the public trust to be great stewards of the taxpayer dollar. And that was my point. My point was not anything to do with CSAC's existence, their ability, their skills. All it was, I think this one slipped. I don't know if this one was reviewed. Admittedly, we say we do not look at content. Well, that's fine. So if we put the blinders on, we can allow any program to do anything they want at any time for any child. And I don't think that's the direction of the taxpayer dollar. But once again, 6-1, that's very impressive. 8-0 was very impressive too. Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner Adams makes a great argument, great presentation. I agree with most everything both of y'all said. My thing is in this, because of the concerns that I got from my constituents, the emails that I got, it was my member that was the dissenting vote that I appointed on that 6-1 vote. With all that discussion that I've had and people that have contacted me, people that have seen me, talked to me, called me, whatever, I just thought it would be best, maybe this was overlooked, that it should go back to CSAC and should be revetted. I don't see where there's anything wrong with that. I understand we do a pretty good job, and that's why I trust it to go back to CSAC. You got people that are much more educated in this area than I am, and I just feel it should go back to them just to clear the air. They may come back and say, we find no problem with it. I'm good with that. I just feel it should be on behalf of the concerns that I was raised, and I don't agree with all of them that were raised. Some of them were politically motivated on the other side of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. But I still think it should go back to CSAC just to be revetted. And I don't want to hold up any money. I mean, I'd be willing to entertain something. We move ahead with approve it, but let this go back just to be vetted. If this is approved, then that money goes to this program too. If there's any question, then we can move on. I just feel it should go back for transparency reasons and just to make sure that the air is clear.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open to the public. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Well, it's still morning, so good morning, welcome. Your name and address, please.
Good morning. Jim Sullivan, 14041 North Indian River Drive, Sebastian. I appreciate the deliberative process here and the comments of Commissioner Flesher, Erman, as well as Moss, Adams, Mr. O'Brien. I think that it invalidates the critical role this body plays to simply just be, say, a rubber stamp approval of something, because this is a deliberative body, just as all of the previous, perhaps, stops on the railway would have been in the process. Now, I'm here because I'm self-employed. I speak for myself and my family, but there are a good number of other residents that share concerns about this particular program. And so I think that, I'm able to perhaps as a citizen say things, and forgive me, maybe a little less delicate than the different ones of you are because you're elected officials, but there's a difference between the intent of a program and then the actual process, or actually what's going on in the classroom. Even as it relates to education, there can be set curriculum is even set by state standards, but then things can be very carefully colored and slanted and pushed in different directions based on the on-the-floor implementation, the facilitation of the curriculum in the classroom. And so, as it relates to due diligence, or vetting, as Commissioner Adams had indicated. I think that there's obviously a pretty involved process, which I validate. I'm unsure what failed the students in the process this time. I'm not a private investigator. My wife isn't a private investigator. I have some big, high-powered software program to look into things and so on and so forth. But I can see clearly, just with the basic research that anyone can do with a PC, that the gentleman who runs the program has very, very strong ideological bents, very strong. Now, that would be very, very well leaning toward very, very hearty support of critical race theory, which has been basically deemed by our Florida State Legislature as inappropriate for our classroom. Support for the 1619 Project. Support for Black Lives Matters, which now is a national controversy because it's even undergoing as a non-for-profit. A class action lawsuit by many of its donors because of a very early misappropriation of funds. So it's clearly showing itself to be a flawed philosophy and demonstrating itself to have a harmful effect on our cities, in our country. And so these types of biases make their way into a classroom, but they make their way into an after-school program as well, clearly, and we can see that. Now, if we want to wait till the toothpaste is out of the tube and the more ideologically charged content comes out of students' mouths next year or the year after that, and see it ramp up to a higher level of concern at that point in time, then you're pulling funding on an even more advanced program and breaking hearts all the more. I feel bad for kids. If you pull funding on a program like this, it creates disappointment for kids. But when I watch this as a parent, I see scripted ideas, and I think that there's baiting going on. I can't validate it. I haven't been able to sit into this gentleman's sessions. I appreciate you, Commissioner Moss, that you had sat in one, and I think that's a worthy effort. I also know you can't hypermanage or micromanage everything. I think what I'm trying to say is that we're seeing baiting can go on where the kids are going to go in a certain direction that they wouldn't have gone into unassisted or unbaited by an individual that perhaps has certain ideological leanings. I guess in closing, a program that's intended to create journalism, there's a real crisis of real journalism in our nation. Real journalism is really actually hard to come by.
Yes.
And what we see is a lot of peddling of a lot of the same ideology, a lot of the same talking points, and I think that if kids were just basically given the basic excavation tools of how to develop a story, how to do a story, how to research, how to do this and do this, I'm unsure that they would have gone in the directions we see. As the topics that might be deemed controversial, they even got into speaking about government-required vaccinations, get vaccinated, so on and so forth, so forth. The CDC has radically changed its own position about vaccination, radically. And one might think that may be an uncontroversial issue, but not for people who have had adverse reactions to them. And when you really look into our own state's positions on some of these things, issues of clear parental rights, issues that, well, the gentleman brings to the table an ideological opposition to things like the Parents' Bill of Rights or the Parents' Rights in Education, things that were voted with overwhelming support in the Florida legislature, and yet you see that, and so then he's got the kids going on walking, touting out things about wearing masks and things like that. That was obviously a very big hot button in our district this year. It was a hot button in our state. Parents felt their rights were overrun, their rights to direct their own children's medical care. And so I guess I would ask for if there could be a way to line item, pull the funding on this particular program. That would be appreciated. I'm unsure of the process. I'm just sharing my concerns. I think different ones of you have been sent information by varied constituents. I'd be happy to provide you with anything you would like to see about the very, very evident digital footprint of the gentleman who's running the program. His ideological positions are not difficult to uncover. And if we want to call vetting true vetting, I think the parties who actually run these programs are the chief influencer in the classroom. So thanks. Maybe I've gone a little long. Thanks for hearing me. And I think you understand where I stand. Thanks for your consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this? And it is still good morning. So good morning. Your name and address, please.
Morning. Scott Bass, Deputy Superintendent, School District Indian River County, 907 Bahia Mar. Like to, first of all, thank you guys for allocating funds to not only this program, but other programs in the past and in the future that benefit the young people of Indian River County. A couple of things in here in the conversation, the program is done in the after-school programs in 8 elementary schools. I, like Dr. Moore, this issue was brought to us not too long ago. I personally have sat down and spoken with leadership of the Young Journalist organization. Not that this, I just want you to be aware of this information with your pending vote. You know, I've indicated to the individual that any type of curriculum must be politically neutral and keeping in accordance with our Parental Bill of Rights. It's got to be age appropriate, not obscene. You know, now that this has been brought to us, it's something that if it is funded and if it's still kept in our schools, we will have a very close eye on. You know, journalism is the focus of the program, but I think just to say this, it doesn't get lost that a lot of literacy goes into this work. You know, one particular situation that I reviewed was a young man who was way below reading level, and through him writing articles helped improve that reading comprehension, and thus has seen some academic success. But I truly understand what Commissioner Ehrman, Commissioner Fletcher, your concerns, and just know that the school district is now aware of that, and if it is funded and kept in our schools, we will be on top of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Good morning, Bob.
I appreciate that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bob McParland, City of Sebastian. I've been sitting on the CSAC committee going into my 10th year, so you beat me, Peter, but I will catch you. And, you know, I originally came to the meeting today, you know, I saw this on there to say thank you, okay? Because I remember when I started on this committee with you, Peter, it was $600,000 is what was awarded every year. And that was abysmal, you know, compared to, you know, you weren't even close to doing the full $1/8 of a mil. So I originally came here to say thank you because we're up to almost $2.5 million. And to remind you that next year you can go up to $250,000, which I'm hoping, which would be 5, right, Lisa? So, and these programs, and this was discussed at the last CSAC meeting because I was there, and we had trouble getting a quorum through the summer months, you know, because we had to be here in meeting, and this did come up, you know, and I had mentioned maybe we should write a letter to this one individual about, you know, making sure everything is neutral, but then if we do it to one, I know there's a couple of faith-based organizations, and a prayer might get said during some point, and I would hate to be somebody coming in here that's against prayer, and there's county money, tax dollars, going for a program that's religious in nature, and that's not what it is. But that can easily be said. To ease anybody's fears, I mean, I had planned on this year going to visit this program myself. I have no problem. I mean, going, seeing the program as Commissioner Moss did to make sure it stays the way it should. But I mean, we're looking at any one of these programs could be controversial. I don't know when politics got into all of it. It's like, you know, I did participate with Lisa and Michael Kent and also Meredith Egan when we were trying to get the Children's Trust
off the ground, and a lot of that was because the county wanted to maintain control. They didn't want to have an independent taxing district, and it was shot down in the lies that were said about CSAC. And again, Jason, I don't know where my check is, but people said that I got paid for sitting on CSAC, so I was on for 10 years, so back pay for 10 years. And another good thing is all of these organizations are listed on the intake. Nothing stops any commissioner or any CSAC member from going in to visit those programs throughout the year. And I'm hoping now that Leanne works for the county, and there's going to hopefully be a little bit more money in the administrative side, and of course, Mike, I'm not going to forget you, is that requirements for a CSAC member is that they do have to go visit these programs. I sit on Martin County Children's Services Council. I have to make at least 6 site visits a year. And I always pick a different program that I have no knowledge about to go in and see what's going on. But nothing stops any of the board members from going. And I think enough has been said at this meeting that, I mean, they only requested $15,000, and I shouldn't say just $15,000 because it is taxpayer money. But they should know that they're on notice, and if something happens, they're not going to see a nickel next year. And we have had programs throughout the years that didn't meet their requirements for CSAC, and they got defunded. And they didn't get funding for several years until they got back in order. And again, this gentleman, I don't know what his ideology is. Nobody knows what mine is. It changes from day to day. And yes, it could be dangerous, but in my work day to day, I do what's in the best interest of children. And I got to believe that this individual, no matter, you know, where they are on the spectrum, is that they're trying to get kids the best. To me, journalism, yes, I don't agree with the way it is, but I think it can teach critical thinking skills, which is definitely needed in today's day and age. And I'm glad that the school board, I know they're like super micromanaged, that they are looking at this program. So I think this program, there's a lot of oversight, and if you guys want, like I said, I plan on going to visit, but if you want me to come back with documentation about what they got, and I'm sure we can ask for an agenda or a synopsis or a syllabus for what they plan on doing for the year. But again, I came down to say thank you, because what you're doing, what you are supporting, almost $2.5 million for nonprofit programs that are providing services to kids is phenomenal. And I look forward to the support next year for going up to $250,000. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Okay.
Commissioner O'Brien, just for the record, I'm sorry.
Mike.
Just for the record, this application was for $25,000. They were funded at $10,000 this current fiscal year. This allocation award was for $15,000, just for the accuracy.
Thank you.
Yep.
We do have a motion from Commissioner Adams, second by myself, to approve the entire funding recommendation as presented to us. Go ahead and call the vote now. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? I heard 2. I heard 3 in favor. So the motion carries 3-2 with Commissioner Flesher and Vice Chairman Ehrman opposed. All right, thank you. Human Resources, the Employee Benefits Consultant, Broker, Actuary Services, approval of a service agreement with Lockton Companies. Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning. Suzanne Boyle, Human Resources Director, Indian River County. You have an agenda item before you to basically renew an agreement that is in place today with Lockton Companies. Lockton has been assisting us for the past 5 years, and we went out for RFP because we knew that the agreement was ending its term, and we went out and competitively solicited proposals. Through the process, the committee did determine that it is our recommendation to renew with Lockton for an additional 5-year term. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay, Commissioners, your pleasure.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by Vice Chair Ehrman, to approve the agreement. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Next is the approval of the Optum agreement for the county stop-loss policy. And again, Suzanne?
Yes, thank you. So this agreement is for our annual stop-loss policy. Pretty much every September we come to the board and present proposals related to what type of insurance premiums we're going to be paying for this stop-loss policy. You will see that in this recommendation, we are actually at Lockton's recommendation and our agreement. Staff is recommending that we change our stop-loss policy from our current provider of Highmark, who is with Florida Blue, and move to Optum. And the reason for that is the savings with Optum at the same levels of coverage that we have today would be pretty substantial, $127,000 lower in overall cost, and our overall maximum liability would be reduced by $1.3 million under the composite aggregate factor of our total risk. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to hopefully answer them, and I also have Lockton here who can assist as well.
Very good. Questions of staff?
No, Mr. Chairman, I found that just incredible, and glad we double checked that and shopped those things. With that, I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Flesher. Suzanne, a question for you, or maybe the representative. And actually, do you want to come up and just introduce yourself? But just like a financial rating, financial strength, I take it Optum is comparable to Florida Blue, or maybe you can answer that. And
I have to double check the exact. My name is Susan Cugno. I'm with Lockton Companies, a resident of Indian River County also.
Okay, great.
But Optum would have to have an A- or better, or we wouldn't be proposing them.
Okay, all right, good. Okay. Any other questions or anything else you want to add other than?
Thank you for the ongoing relationship. We enjoy working with Indian River County and the team.
Okay, very good.
I would like to add one thing. In the agenda item, and this was pretty substantial, and this is one of the reasons why we recommended that continuation with Lockton. They have a complex claims specialty practice team that does reviews on high-cost claims, and Lockton actually identified that there was a claim that was paid in error under Florida Blue, and it was a $250,000 that came back to the plan. So I just want to let you know that's part of this process that Lockton brings to the table, is they do have a lot of analysis of our claims and our experience, and they drill down and they identified that. So I was pretty pleased about that. I just wanted to call that out as well.
Very good, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Thank you for spending your whole morning with us for 2 minutes of fame and glory, but okay. Thank you very much for being here.
Bye-bye.
We pulled item 12F1, so now we move on to utility services, water quality study, and potable water treatment facility evaluation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Just under the gun. I think it's still 15 minutes and it's still morning. So
yeah.
I'm Sean Leesky, Director of Utilities. Just wanted to come to you this morning to talk to you a little bit about what we're asking here. We have a continuing consultants engineering services agreement that we're requesting to enter into with Tetra Tech to do a water quality assessment of our distribution system and to evaluate our water treatment to see if there's perhaps some optimization opportunities. Now, I know that we had a similar report done by Kimley Horn, and an effort done by Kimley Horn about a year ago. It's only been a year. In September of 2021, that report came out. What we're requesting, though, is to take another look at this. This is no indication of the report and the quality of work that we got from Kimley Horn. Much like you might go to the doctor if you had an injury or something like that, you often request a second opinion. Many of you are aware that we continue to receive concerns from constituents associated with the water quality of the county, particularly associated with plumbing within their homes and their structures. So we felt it would be prudent for us to do a second evaluation of this, a second opinion. Tetra Tech is a well-known national firm, has a lot of experience in water and water quality, and so we are requesting the opportunity to have them come in and do this assessment.
Very good. Any questions of Sean? Okay, Commissioners, your pleasure.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Flesher. Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Thank you, Sean. Moving on to the county attorney matters, the commercial PACE program. the Florida Green Finance Authority, and Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much. On August 16th, the board voted to move forward with the commercial PACE program for one property with one specific program and with specific notice and consent requirements contained. Per the board's direction, the county attorney's office has drafted the attached resolution, which will allow for the Florida Green Finance Authority to provide the commercial PACE program to the specific property located at 5380 US Highway 1. The proposed language does contain the lender notification and consent language that was discussed by the board. The county attorney's office simply recommends that the board approve the resolution, and I believe the applicant and the applicant's agent are here for any questions. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. Any questions of Dylan? Okay, is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this? Okay. Commissioners, your pleasure. Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by myself, to approve the resolution. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to commissioner matters. Under my matters, as you all know, or hopefully know, my term will be expiring here in mid-November, and there's the potential for some of the canvassing board duties to continue past my term. And how the statute works, and Dylan, correct me if I get it wrong, but the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, is a canvassing board member, and then the chair can appoint an alternate. In the case that the chair cannot serve, which I'm bringing forward, then actually the board has to approve the canvassing board member, and then as chair, I can still appoint a alternate. In my memo, my recommendation to the board is that the board approve Vice Chairman Ehrman to be the canvassing board member. And then just to make it quick and easy, I also would recommend the board approve Commissioner Susan Adams as the alternate member. And that's my memo. If there's any questions.
Sounds good. Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Moss, second by Commissioner Flesher. Is there any, excuse me. I'm all choked up over this, Commissioner. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. And Vice Chair Ehrman, just like Bob McPartland, your check is probably lost somewhere, but I'm sure we'll find it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we took care of Commissioner Moss's items. That brings us to the Solid Waste Disposal District. The award of bid of 2022-074 for transportation of recyclables to St. Lucie County. Himanshu is here. Himanshu, you want to walk through this real quick? Because I think there's a update for the board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu, Solid Waste Disposal District. So since 2019, we've entered into an agreement with St. Lucie County to basically process all of our recyclables. They have a multi-million-dollar processing facility, so we basically transport our recyclables once they arrive from the collection vehicles. Then we transport that material to St. Lucie County. And so a number of years ago, we went out to bid for that transportation service. Republic Services was awarded that bid, and it was really a 5-year term for that project. However, earlier this year, we basically received a letter from Republic Services that they no longer could transport our recyclables down to St. Lucie County. They basically said, there were economic conditions, inflations, current diesel gas prices. So they submitted, which was allowed in the agreement, basically a 90-day notice, if you will, for termination, which comes up here on September 30, 2022. So we quickly worked with purchasing department, went out to bid to select a new transportation hauler, and the bids were opened on August 18th, and we had two bidders. We were hoping that Public Services, who has, been doing this for a number of years. Maybe if the cost was a little too low, that they would participate in the bid process and at least, give us a bid price. But unfortunately, they did not bid as well. And so we have two companies, Bulk Express out of Miami and Merrill Brothers out of Indiana. These prices are significantly higher than what we've paid in the past, and certainly even above what we budgeted for next fiscal year. However, we're proud of our recycling program. We're proud of what we've done here in Indian River County. Unfortunately, there's a 30-mile distance between our counties. We need to get the material down there. Since this is the low bidder, staff is recommending an award to Bulk Express Transport to transport our materials down to St. Lucie County. There is a little difference in terms of the proposed budget for next fiscal year. There's a shortfall about $71,100 to get to the low bid price of $521,100. Again, we can fund that through cash forward, but ultimately, staff is recommending that the board award to Bulk Express Transport Incorporated, approve the agreement, and authorize the chairman to execute it. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
So, Himanshu, it's my understanding that St. Lucie has given us a notice that they're not accepting any more recycling. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioners. Last Thursday, we received an email from the solid waste manager that due to unfavorable market conditions, difficulty moving commodities, that they basically requested that we temporarily suspend transporting recyclables to their facility. And we're hoping that this is a short-term duration situation. We've checked around. Waste Management is a big player in the industry. They have a facility in Cocoa Beach. We've understand that even Waste Management is having difficulty moving products. So ultimately, the way it works, we collect it, we send it to a processing facility. They separate the materials into different commodities, bales of cardboard, bales of aluminum, and then ultimately they hope to sell that or send that to an end user. But it looks like that a lot of these facilities are having difficulty getting these end users to take their materials. And so if they're not accepting it, their facilities are being basically overwhelmed, and they can't process all the incoming material. They don't have the storage space to hold it. So that's what's going on in the recycling industry at this time. We're hoping this is a short-term sort of a blip. We've seen, we've seen in the industry markets fluctuate up and down, but there's always a continuous move of the material. Unfortunately, this is what's going on in the industry right now. And again, it's not just St. Lucie County, it's other processing facilities that are experiencing the same thing.
Okay. So you're asking us to go ahead and approve the transport agreement, but we won't really be hauling anything temporarily at this point in time.
That's correct.
Okay.
We wanted to, since we went out to bid, we've done a good bid process. We'd like to go ahead and award. Certainly, if there's no material down there, it's not an absolute that we're guaranteeing that every week or whatever we have tonnages to send down. It's basically if we have material to send down, then we would use this transport company to send the material.
Okay. Commissioners,
Move approval.
we have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Vice Chair Ehrman. Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. That concludes our agenda. I just will point out for everyone that tomorrow evening, Wednesday the 14th at 5:01 p.m. will be our first of the formal final budget hearing. So please mark that on your calendar and come on out. And then just remind everybody, game day is on the 20th. Wear your college apparel, and we're going to have a great time with that. And without anything else for the good of the community, we're adjourned.